Live, everybody. Hannah Storm, along with the voice you just heard, the great Swagoo, Peter Strager, Jeff Darlington. These guys have been carrying the network all day long today, so this should be a good one. And we're going to start with Swagoo's Cowboys. The boys and the Rams are holding a joint practice today. Cowboys reporter Todd Archer is there, and he joins us now. So, Todd, yesterday we saw Micah Parsons back in that number 11 jersey for the first time since making his trade request. Not sure if that has any meaning at all as he continues to hold in. What can you tell us about the situation right now?
Yeah, Hannah, we know the baseball term, no runs, no hits, no errors, no trade calls, no talks on a new deal, no nothing. And we really don't know what will be the thing that thaws the ice between the two sides. I've asked around, and it's just where we are, and this is how long it's going to take, and nobody really knows. So then you have to play it out beyond this season as what could happen. He plays out the year in the fifth-year option, and then you're looking at the franchise tag possibility in 2026, in 2027, in 2028 maybe. So this might not be the last we've talked about, certainly not the last we've talked about Micah's contract. On the field, Brian Schottenheimer said even where everything is right now, the Cowboys, the coaches are planning on everything with Micah, moving around the defense, getting him ready for the season as if he will play September 4th against the Eagles. But so far, at least he's in his jersey, Hannah, like you said. But yesterday, no socks, or no shoes. I'm sorry, just socks.
No shirt, no shoes, no problem. Listen, the Cowboys got a big problem. Officially less than a month away from their opener against the Eagles. And this is a pattern, as we know. Jerry Jones has not been afraid to take extension talks down to the wire. It took until August 24th of last year to get that deal done with C.D. Lamb. It took all the way up until a couple of hours, remember, before opening kickoff to sign Dak Prescott to an extension. Both of them eventually were rewarded. Lamb is now the third highest paid wide receiver by average annual value. Dak is the highest paid quarterback, but there's a lot of pain and angst to get there. And Marcus Spears is right in the middle of it. Swagoo, you just heard Todd Archer say, no, nothing. There is nothing going on. How concerned are you?
I'm concerned, but I'm concerned, Hannah, from the football standpoint of things. Like, we've seen contract disputes. We've seen them go all the way to your point, like you talked about Dak, all the way up until hours before a game. And initially, I was going to have this crazy reaction to Micah demanding a trade and all of that. And my mind shifted right back to Myles Garrett and how he demanded a trade and ended up being the highest paid. So it could be a negotiating tactic. The problem is that this is 3 now summers in a row where Dallas has had their face of their franchise unsigned, not participating in team activities. And we're talking about a team with a new head coach, in Micah's case, a new defensive coordinator in Eberflus, and we don't have the best player, one of the top 5 defensive players in the NFL on the field to get things going. Therein lies my issue. Like the contract stuff, we could talk for 3 hours about how bad and mishandled this has been, from getting him signed earlier, giving you flexibility to do other things, all the way up until this war of words in the media, seemingly between Micah and Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones more so than anybody. It's a bad situation. And I don't know if money is going to fix the relationship. And I know a lot of people, well, he's going to get paid, everything will be fine, he'll just play football. But when you're counting on a guy like Micah to be the leader of your team, to be one of the faces of your franchise, and even though he has money in his pocket, he may feel unsupported, that could be an issue within the locker room, and which can permeate and translate to on the field. And it's always been that for me. The way Jerry handles business affects the actual play of football when the games start. And that is something I've been screaming for a number of years when it comes to Dallas.
Yeah, I 100% see the comparison to Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And I'll go back to Ezekiel Elliott a few years before even Dak got his money, in that Jerry does wait till the last second. But I also got the feeling Jerry loved Ezekiel Elliott. Even when Zeke was in Cabo, like, Jerry loved Zeke. That was his guy. Took him 4th overall. That was his guy. Jerry loves Dak, and Jerry loves CeeDee Lamb. I don't get the feeling Jerry Jones loves Micah Parsons. At no point over the last 12 months has there been any sort of roses, flowers, bouquets thrown his way, or any confidence that you get that this relationship is something that is akin to those other ones. I get the feeling that he felt he had a deal with Micah Parsons, maybe against his better judgment, because I didn't even feel like when we were hearing that there was some great fondness for the two. I don't think he respects the agent. I don't think he respects hearing about the agent. I certainly don't think he respects hearing us on ESPN all day saying how great the agent is. And I think Jerry's a businessman and he wants to win this one. So I don't think this is as clean as, you know what, 11:59 a.m. kickoff weekend. You know, Adam Schefter is going to come on and say, breaking news, Micah agreed. And everyone's going to say, yeah, we knew. I think this one gets a little hairier. And this might not be the only time both sides are talking out publicly about each other.
I hear both of you. I just think that Jerry Jones loves sacks, and I think that Micah Parsons loves money. And I think that that's what it's come down to for both of them. You know, Swaggo, you were talking about the idea of negotiations and, like, is this just a negotiation tactic, the idea that he put out the trade request? I say absolutely yes. Anything that is done in public is a negotiating tactic. You don't say that you want to be traded if you actually do. You go behind the scenes and do things quietly for the team to leverage it the best way possible. In this case, to me, this says, I do want to be here and I want you to pay me so that I don't have to leave. And Jerry Jones is saying the same types of things. I just believe that ultimately it will get done at the end of the day. Maybe I'm being too naive about this. I just think that one person in Jerry Jones loves production, and I believe that one person in Micah Parsons loves money, and that's what gets this done.
Well, we'll see if he can do business as usual, speaking of Jerry Jones. And it's really too bad because if this wasn't an issue, we'd be talking all about Dak coming back, getting a receiver on the other side of CeeDee Lamb. I mean, this narrative would be completely different. All right, let's talk about the team that they are scrimmaging against here, the Rams, because they actually had a signing today. JD, what happened?
Yeah, Kieran Williams, the running back, signing 3 years, $33 million, which is a really big deal for the Rams, but it's also a big deal across the landscape of the NFL. This is obviously important, especially when you see $23 million guaranteed. Again, very important for this Rams team, but we can also flip this over to what is happening in Buffalo right now with James Cook as an unexpected holdout from practice, a hold-in at training camp to the surprise of Brandon Beane. With James Cook seeking that contract, this could be exactly what he needs to be able to go back to Brandon Beane and say, all right, this deal with Williams got done. Now we have a little bit more of a blueprint for how this can happen. I think this made Williams the seventh highest paid running back. We're not talking about any kind of like market setting deal here. So this kind of helps everybody understand where the market is. We'll see. Maybe this allows Cook to get his deal done as well.
Yeah, he had triple the touchdowns last season that he did the year before, 6 the year before, 18 last year. So we'll see if Williams helps to set that market. Meanwhile, another joint practice going on today between the Colts and the Ravens. Now, Lamar Jackson was excused from practice yesterday, but he was there today. The two-time MVP coming off his best passing season with career-high numbers, runner-up MVP, but has yet, of course, to reach the Super Bowl. Here he is on the cusp of his 8th season.
I feel like our offense is always room for improvement. You know, the camp it can be we have good days, we have bad days, we have okay days, we have great days. You know, but I feel like it's always room for improvement. We right where we need to be right now. We don't see these guys every day. You know, we get to see different looks from different guys, different type of coverages, see how different guys guard different people, different blitzes and stuff like that. So definitely, we get a lot out of these type of joint practices.
And when it gets going for real, they're going to be tested early and often. The Ravens open the season where last season ended for them in Buffalo. Then in weeks 3 and 4, they play the Lions and the Chiefs, who each ended last year with 15-2 records. And then in weeks 5 and 6, they face the Texans and the Rams. Each of those teams won a playoff game last season. So that's 5 playoff teams in their first 6 games. But we know that the Ravens have one of the most complete rosters, top to bottom, in the NFL. So, Schrags, are you confident that they can start strong with that schedule?
Remember, they were about a millimeter shy of potentially beating the Chiefs in week 1, and then they lost to a good team in week 2, and they bounced back. And by week 3 last year, they blew out the Bills on national TV, and we're like, all right, Derrick Henry's getting settled. I have no doubt that this Ravens team is going to come ready to play. I also have no doubt that they are going to be a better team out of the gates. There were a lot of new players getting adjusted. And even in that first game against the Chiefs last year, Justice Hill was the primary back for that first 3 quarters before they started getting Derrick Henry going. This year, no surprises. Derrick Henry's going to run the ball up everyone's gut in the first few weeks, and they got better on defense. I'm really interested to see what we get out of Jair Alexander this year. That is a player that a couple years ago we were talking about as potentially being the best defensive back in all of football. Played 4 games in 2 years, and suddenly he's looked at as this injury-prone red flag. They got him on 40 cents on the dollar about what he could be if he is healthy. And Jair's been talking big this offseason. So I look at this team. I think they really went all in with Jair. They went all in with DeAndre Hopkins, and they brought back so many key players. There is no excuse left. And right out of the gates, there should be no false starts.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing their start. Here's the deal, though. Like every team that the Ravens show up on their schedule, they saying, dang, we got a hell of a start to the season because they are one of those teams like we looking at all of those teams that we have to play. Ultimately, it's going to boil down to the playoffs and how deep they can go and can they get to a Super Bowl and have an opportunity to win one. And I know we getting ahead of ourselves, but that's really how we look at the Baltimore Ravens through that prism. Will they get over the Patrick Mahomes hump like most teams in the AFC have to? Will they, the Cincinnati Bengals, we know their division, how good will Pittsburgh be as well? There's a lot of things that the Ravens can take week to week and not worry about the big picture, but we on TV. We work at ESPN for a certain reason. We in the preseason. We could talk about Super Bowl obviously being in the Ravens' future. And I think I don't think Lamar is going to feel good about having a good season or a good start. This team has put themselves in a position now where it's Super Bowl or bust. And I know everybody talks about that, but this team has been super close. AFC championships, deep playoff runs. Now it's time to get over the hump. The start will be great for positioning in the playoffs if they get it done, but nobody expects the Baltimore Ravens to be hurting coming out of week 6.
Mark is 100%. It's like being Phil Mickelson in the Tiger Woods era. Like, it's got to be exhausting for them because they've got the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes constantly. And honestly, the Bills are a similar sentiment when it comes to them, and to a lesser degree, the Bengals. It's all about just getting to the postseason for their chance at the champ. Like, I remember being in Buffalo and watching them, like, with all due respect, they deserved it. It was a great win when they beat the Chiefs at home, and everybody acted like this was their moment. When it was a regular season, it didn't matter. It did not matter. And like, it's the same thing for the Ravens at this point. They need their chance at the champ in the postseason. And all due respect, everything they do in the regular season is nice. But they could go 17-0, and if they lose again in the postseason, none of it matters.
Here's the thing. Do you guys know, they have not won multiple games in the postseason. You have to go all the way back to the year they won the Super Bowl in 2012. So just think about that.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're going to have a rookie kicker, too. Don't forget that. All right, we're just getting started on Knicks. He improved drastically throughout the season. In his first 7 starts, he had just a 45 total QBR, 6th lowest in the NFL, threw as many interceptions as touchdowns. Come on, the guy was a rookie, right? In his last 10 starts, that QBR jumped 21 points, plus his yards per attempt and completion percentage increased dramatically. He threw for 24 touchdowns over his last 10 starts, 4th most during that span. Seth Wickersham with more on how Sean Payton found his quarterback.
On a March morning in 2024, Sean Payton held a file folder and asked me, "Do you promise with every shred of your integrity that you won't discuss this with anyone?" I said yes. He opened the folder. Inside were the names of the top quarterbacks in the draft, from Caleb Williams to J.J. McCarthy, and a series of proprietary measurements. Payton had created a new formula, a series of advanced analytics, in search of answers to maybe the hardest and most mysterious question in professional sports. Which great college quarterbacks have what it takes to become great NFL quarterbacks? And how do you know? NFL teams have thrown hundreds of millions of dollars at the question over the years, and the hit rate has been horrible.
Where the hell was we throwing that one?
Since 2000, 75 quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round. At least 37 failed. When he returned to the league as head coach of the Denver Broncos in 2023, Payton needed to find his next Drew Brees. He began with an idea he had first developed when he scouted and missed out on Patrick Mahomes in 2017. For Payton, the key was not to study a quarterback's successes, but to analyze his failures. He felt that quarterbacks with high rates of sacks and turnovers often panic. So he looked at the rate of negative plays against the quarterback's total dropbacks. What percentage of the time did his plays result in a sack, fumble, or interception? It was a failure index of sorts. For example, Mahomes' failure index was just 8.1%. Payton famously missed out on Mahomes in the draft, but he believed he had the right approach. And in 2024, when he was in the market for a franchise quarterback, he applied it to the crop of top candidates, from Caleb Williams, whose high sack numbers gave him a 17.5% score, to Drake May and J.J. McCarthy, whose ball security approaches resulted in relatively low scores of 10.5 and 7.8%. And then Payton ran numbers on Oregon's Bo Nix. In 878 dropbacks during his collegiate career, Nix was sacked only 10 times. He never fumbled, not once. He threw just 10 interceptions. He completed nearly 75% of his passes. His failure index was a paltry 2.3%. Nix was better than everyone, and it wasn't close. Payton's formula helped narrow his choices. When he got to know Nix and learned about his character, he was sold. Nobody had a better rookie year than Jaden Daniels, but Nix started all 17 games for Denver, accounted for 33 total touchdowns, and helped the Broncos to their first playoff berth in almost a decade.
Bo loads it up. He's got it. A receiver there. Touchdown, Denver.
For the rest of his coaching career, Payton has his quarterback.
Seth Wickersham is with us now. That is so interesting. Wouldn't all of the Italian evaluators love to have some tried and true formula and hit better than 50% on those first round quarterbacks? How well does this system work for Payton?
Well, I think it worked pretty well this time.
Yep.
That's the mystery, right? We never quite know. Is it the guy with the ball in his hands, or is it the formula that led it to him? But I think that what makes this so interesting is that he cracked the code in his own way of the hardest metric that all of the analytics people and every GM around the league wants to know, which is like, how can you predict processing speed when you decide you want to throw the ball to delivering it? And the difference between college and the NFL is like half of a second. But no one can figure out a way to quantify how to measure that. And so what he did, I think, most coaches look at a player and they say, here are the things he does wrong and this is what I want to fix. Payton didn't say that at all, and instead he just looked at hard results. And that's what led him to Nix, because Nix's results when it came to negative plays like sacks and turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, were so low that he trusted that he was seeing the field clearly and reacting quickly.
And the great thing about Nix is he had such a large body of work to evaluate, so Payton wasn't guessing and saying, oh, maybe, you know, here's the ceiling for this guy. It's really interesting because we do know, Peter, that the Broncos have maybe the best defense in the NFL. It's great, and that's awesome for Nix. What about the other side of the ball? Have they done enough to help him build off of last year?
Well, I'd first say what a testament to Seth and what a reporter that he is, and that Sean Payton's even willing to share that contents of the manila folder with him. And when you unveil that, it can't just be the quarterback. You have to build around him as well. And I remember being on the phone with Payton the night before the draft last year, and he probably called me 3 different times asking the same question, if the Raiders loved Penix. Do the Raiders love Penix? If Penix, are the Raiders going to trade up to get Penix? He was so concerned about the Raiders loving Penix that they might not love Penix and might love Bo Nix, and then this whole entire process and rating system would be out the window if the Raiders jumped him. He wasn't going to let it happen again. To your point, Seth, he wanted Mahomes. They were all ready to draft Mahomes. Andy Reid went and got him. So now they put the parts around him, and you look at the running backs for him. I think it's huge. When he was in New Orleans, Sean always had this variety of running backs, whether it be a combination of Pierre Thomas and Darren Sproles and Reggie Bush, and then eventually Alvin Kamara. They always had all these guys, and then soon enough, Taysom Hill was playing that. In Denver, they're building a stable of running backs, and all the fantasy folks will tell you Harvey's the guy, and he will be, but they still really like Jaleel McLaughlin. They still are really excited about getting J.K. Dobbins, and they still like the kid Estime that they got from Notre Dame last year. So that's going to be key because Sean Payton has not always been a passing guy. We know that. And it's always been about Breeze. But that stable of running backs was almost as important in New Orleans as it was the passing game. And they are very high on what they have in the running backs room this year as well.
Yeah, they traded up to get Knicks's college teammate, Troy Franklin, as well. So this is just one part of your new book, and I'm with Schrags. I mean, kudos to get Sean Payton to like peel back the coaching onion at all is unbelievable. What else can we expect? Because I know you're going to have some more great revelations for us coming up.
What was funny, and I didn't tell a soul about that. I didn't even tell my wife. Nobody knew that he had showed me that. I didn't talk to a single person about it, and it all worked out. He was a happy, happy guy after the draft. I think I'm going to be here every week. We're going to talk about a new element of the book, and I hopefully have some surprises for people.
Yeah, well, hopefully you got more people to spill some more secrets, as only you can, Seth Wickersham. Also, we want to tell people this book is unbelievable. It's called American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. It is available for pre-order now wherever books are sold. We have some breaking news now into NFL Live from Adam Schefter, and this is big. The NFL has suspended Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season for violating the league's substances abuse policy. He will now miss games at Chicago against the Falcons, against the Bengals. Again, tough news for that team, and especially J.J. McCarthy, his first year. Breaking news on NFL Live. The NFL has suspended Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the 2025 regular season. For the details now, we go to Jeff Darlington. JD, what more can you tell us?
Well, Hannah, this is a 3-game suspension that is for substance abuse, but this is actually something that requires a little more context. Addison was arrested for DUI last year. He pleaded down to a lesser charge. So this is related to that. The wording obviously is being used that it's the substance abuse situation. The suspension is for that, but this is all related to that DUI. So this then will go away in terms of the punishment from the NFL. This is their final punishment as a result of that situation. So again, a 3-game suspension for the Vikings' number 2 wide receiver. Obviously very impactful considering J.J. McCarthy, a quarterback, is trying to establish himself as the franchise guy.
Right. Those first 3 games would be at the Bears, the Falcons, and the Bengals. They don't meet a playoff team until they play in Dublin against the Steelers in Week 4. So obviously this affects defenses on the other side. They're going to be able to concentrate on Justin Jefferson. What does this mean for McCarthy and the Vikings offense as they try to get going with a new quarterback who essentially is a rookie?
You mentioned Justin. Yeah, you mentioned Justin, Hannah. He's been dealing with an injury himself, so he hadn't had that great of a time with J.J. McCarthy in camp either. But here's the deal, man. Like, as a rookie quarterback coming into a system, all of the confidence in the world and what Kevin O'Connell has been doing offensively, we saw him resurrect Sam Darnold's career. J.J. McCarthy was the guy that they chose, right? So now it's about positioning him. And look, I guess the silver lining in a situation that's not good is that now you prepare to not have Addison, which gives this coaching staff an opportunity. Naylor is still there, who stepped up big for him at the wide receiver position as well in some games. But I think ultimately for a young quarterback, now it's about finding within. Like, the run game is going to become more prevalent. This defense is still really, really good under Brian Flores. So it may be more of like, let's play mistake-free football. Let's find the plays when we can be explosive downfield, but more importantly, play a complementary game until you have your full requisite weapons with Jordan Addison coming back, because he did develop into a deep threat for Sam Darnold last year, and J.J. McCarthy is going to want to have that back before they start opening this offense up.
All right, we have more breaking news to get. I'm sorry, did you want to add something, Schrags? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you get a month now to get those guys going. You mentioned Naylor, Felton's there, Rondale Moore, they went and signed. Like, you've got a month now, so you better have a number 2 wide receiver. This can't be one of those where they're looking around in the huddle week 1 and say, what do we do without Addison? I think they'll be prepared.
Exactly. It looked like a relatively maybe soft beginning for J.J. McCarthy, which just got a lot more challenging. And as I mentioned moments ago, speaking of young quarterbacks, Browns rookie Shedeur Sanders is expected to start Cleveland's preseason opener against the Panthers. How about that? First reported by Mary Kay Cabot, and that was confirmed by Shefty. And he's been dealing with some shoulder soreness as well. Shrakes, what do you think about this?
I perked up. This is the Shedeur effect. I perked up. I didn't anticipate this. And now it's okay. Shedeur's going to play, and he's going to play in a preseason game, and he's going to have an opportunity to do it on a national stage. This is why Shedeur Sanders is a different kind of fifth-round pick. If you told me some other fifth-round pick playing for some other team was starting, I wouldn't even, care. Now I'm seeing Shedeur, and I'll tell you, these guys know it. And Jeff, you might have been there with me. I remember being up in Renton, Washington, watching Russell Wilson in 2012 absolutely light up training camp and then go in a preseason game against the Cowboys and be the best player on the field, being so good that he was undeniable to that coaching staff that they had to start Russ, who was a day 2 pick, over Matt Flynn and over the late Travaris Jackson because he won the job. So Shedeur, I looked to him, go and win the job. You're on national TV. Go and light it up. Throw the ball. Have fun. But I didn't buy the jersey, but I definitely perked up at the fact that he's going to be playing and he's number 1 under center, even in a preseason game.
I agree with you, Shregs. This is important. It does come with context. Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel both dealing with hamstring issues. Mm-hmm. They're not putting Joe Flacco in there, who is their projected week 1 starter. So they are down to basically saying, like, all right, Shedeur, here's your shot. And this is exactly what you need. I mean, anytime you talk about a 5th-round pick, forget about the name attached to him. He's going to have to look for these situations where maybe a couple guys are down right now and he has his chance to step up. And then if he does well, there's no looking back. That being said, he is getting this first chance. This is a chance to shine, ultimately, because those 2 guys right now who are ahead of him on the depth chart, the first depth chart, they are dealing with hamstring issues. So Shedeur Sanders getting his chance.
By the way, they have Marcus Swagoo. Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Hannah. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that they actually.
There's a real move.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Hannah. Go ahead, Hannah. No. I'm shutting up. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they actually have like 5 quarterbacks in camp now because they signed Tyler Huntley today. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Snoop. Snoop is in the building too. Exactly. I was about to say though, like Shedeur is on record saying he didn't want Prime to come to practice because he wasn't doing that much. He wasn't getting those many reps. This is the opportunity that he has now to be fully in command of an offense. And this is critical. Like if we see a step up, if he starts getting a 1 step above his reps that he's been getting, if his positional value moves up, it'll be based on how he performs in this preseason game. It may be a blessing in disguise for Shedeur Sanders, who needs to have the football so he can show people what he is and what he can be for this franchise. I think this is a bigger deal than just starting a preseason game for a 5th-round pick. Not because it's Shedeur Sanders, but because we don't know what the 2 guys that are dealing with the hamstrings are either. This is not clear-cut about who the backup will be for all intents and purposes. You would think Kenny Pickett because of the experience, but this is a vital situation that Shedeur has and almost an opportunity for him to move up in that depth chart just by default based on the performance in a week 1 preseason game.
Right. This is job security, right? They're not going to hang on to all of these guys once the season starts.
It's a big deal, man.
It is. Going to be all eyes on him, I tell you. Cowboys and Rams, by the way, they're having a joint practice today in Oxnard, California, and that is where we find our Lindsay theory. She's been all over the place. Lindsay, let's talk about the Rams because they have a concern. At quarterback, Matthew Stafford is now seeing a specialist for his back issues. What's the latest? What's going on there?
Hannah, Matthew Stafford has seen that specialist twice for his back issues, and you mentioned it. There is some concern around the Rams almost 3 weeks now into training camp, and Stafford has yet to practice. He will not practice again today in their joint workout against the Cowboys. As you see, he is arriving. He is here, but he will not be throwing the football. It's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, first-team reps, and as we know from covering Sean McVay, he puts a lot of emphasis on the importance of these joint workouts because he does not play starters in the preseason. As for Stafford, McVay has expressed some optimism about the progress there, saying he is progressing. Yesterday during a jog-through, he did work out on the side. As for the details of that workout, Sean McVay said, ask the training staff. Well, the training staff just walked behind me. I asked them. They laughed and said, we absolutely can't tell you how things are going. We have to say officially no comment. But again, there is some optimism. Sean McVay says they want to work him back into football, and hopefully in the near future they will get him back out here. But no firm timeline has been established.
Listen, Lizzie, I know you can break them down. Just hang in there. I know you'll get some more information.
Yeah.
One thing we do know is
I won't stop, Hannah.
Yeah, I know you don't. And neither does Stafford. What a tough guy. We know all of the injuries and things that he's played for throughout the years. Lindsay, these are depth charts of the preseason, so we're going to provide some depth perception, try to read the tea leaves a little bit here. And we're going to start in Jacksonville, where the initial depth chart has Travis Hunter as a starting wide receiver and a second-string cornerback. Swagoo, what do you think when you hear that?
I think he's a Hall of Fame corner, but obviously, what the hell do I know? I've only been around football for a long time. We know Travis Hunter is supremely talented. He can play wide receiver at a very high level in the NFL, and he's talking about going both ways. But listing him as a wide receiver obviously has a phenomenal connotation, and I don't want anybody to forget that Brian Thomas Jr. made the Pro Bowl last year. So this could be two devastating weapons for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence, who needs to have a really good season this year.
Indeed he does. All right, let's go to Indianapolis, where the initial depth chart lists the Colts starting quarterback as, well, pick 'em. Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. Their head coach Shane Steichen said moments ago Richardson's going to start the first preseason game. Jones is going to start the second. Jeff, what can you tell us about this QB competition?
Well, as you mentioned on the depth chart, it is listed, despite all the other positions being clearly ordered, Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback. But that is a development that we just heard recently, that Anthony Richardson will start the first preseason game. Daniel Jones will start the second preseason game. So Richardson gonna get his first chance to make that impression. We were talking about what Shedeur Sanders can do. Richardson has been around longer, obviously, and has played in the system and has familiarity with the Colts, but he still has to go out and win this job. Now, it is important to note that Steichen did say that Daniel Jones will start the second preseason game. It's not as if Richardson can simply run away with this thing, but he can very well make a good impression and work toward getting that starting job.
It's so weird. I mean, you wonder what those guys are thinking when they see a pick 'em on the depth chart. Shregs, what do you think about that move by the Colts?
It's cheeky a little bit by Steichen to the fans and to the media that we're not tipping our caps. It's also may the best man win, which I kind of respect in an open quarterback competition. Look, a lot of teams don't have two different top 6 draft picks on their roster, and a lot of them don't have two guys who are looking for redemption. Anthony Richardson starting the first preseason game. Okay. The second preseason game is where you usually see most of the starters out there if you're going to use them at all, and that's going to Daniel Jones. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is an early indication that Richardson has the edge on Daniel Jones, who they paid quite a bit of money this past offseason.
I think to your point, Peter, Daniel Jones has the edge, because if you're trying to see if Anthony Richardson has made a progression, you play him in as much preseason as you can. Obviously, injury always comes up, but this is a guy that needs to prove some things about playing the quarterback position. This is a real competition. Obviously, everybody knows that. But what are we finding out about Daniel Jones? What is he going to do new that we haven't seen him do playing quarterback outside of, to your point, Peter, potentially being out there with the starters? Anthony Richardson is the person that the Indianapolis Colts want to win this job. All right. I want to say that again. He is the guy they want to win this job, because we know what the future looks like with Daniel Jones. And that's looking for another quarterback at some point to take over this franchise and be their guy.
Listen, I mean, it would show them that they were right in their evaluation and their hopes for him. And we do not have a body of work to evaluate Anthony Richardson.